What's up, guys? I was originally going to do a video reacting to Imavov and Borralho, but to be honest, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I wasn't home. I work a lot, man, so I'm just going to stick to the pay-per-views and just regular stuff, and if I'm able to react to some of the fight nights, I'll do it. But for now, that's what I'm going to do. 'Cause honestly, I work like a dog, man. I barely started this YouTube thing, so that don't mean I don't got chains on my legs, you know? But today, what I am gonna do, I'm gonna be reacting to the fights that were canceled, but everything after 2016, because that's when I actually started watching UFC was from 2016 and up. Anything before that, I'm not gonna react to those, because honestly, I wasn't watching at that time, so I can't properly tell you that I was like, oh, shit, we should have had this fight. Like, I'm not gonna lie, man. What the fuck? That's weird. Like, oh, I was so excited for this fight, but I wasn't even watching the sport at that time. What the hell? That's stupid. Let's start off. Rafael dos Anjos versus Conor McGregor, UFC 196. It was going to be RDA's first title defense. Let me tell you, this is the one fight I was contemplating on putting in here because I just started watching the sport, so I didn't know the significance of it at that time. But I think about half a year later, I realized, yeah, that would have been a great fight. And if you look back at it, this is the fight that, because of the fallout, is the reason that we got Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor in the first place. A lot of people were saying that, if RDA did fight Conor at this time, he would have beat Conor McGregor because of the cardio and all this stuff. But I don't think so. If that fight happened, I believe Conor would have KO'd RDA. Because if you look at RDA's fight with Eddie Alvarez, Eddie knocked him out. Who's to say that McGregor wouldn't have knocked him out? And the weight jump wouldn't have been as high as he was for Nate Diaz. He jumped up 2 weight classes for that. And it's not like boxing, where it's 5 to 10 pound difference. We're talking about 145 to 170. That's crazy. And I believe that's truly why he gassed out. That's a big ass weight jump. But I think he would have been fine against RDA. And I think he would have knocked him out. So I'm not going to lie and say, like, oh my God, I was so torn. When we start getting towards middle of the video, that start feeling a little more emotional. That's when I was like, all right, my feet are planted in the sport now. Next one is UFC 209, Khabib versus Tony. This one was for the interim title, and Khabib would have beat Tony at this time. I don't know, man. I know a lot of people say that, like, Tony was all dangerous and all this stuff. I think we got our answer when Charles Oliveira fought Tony. And when Islam fought Charles, it would have been clear cut that Khabib would have beat Tony. Around this time, it would have been a little more difficult, but essentially he would beat him. So Khabib was going to beat Tony by UD. Next one, Whittaker versus Rockhold, UFC 221. That would have been Whittaker's first defense. Whittaker was going to knock him out. After that Michael Bisping fight, like, Rockhold was pretty kenny. Romero knocked him out. And Whittaker did have the ability to sleep dudes, man. Whittaker would have KO'd him. It wouldn't have been as quickly as Romero did it, but he still would have gotten the job done. Next one. This one hurts because it's two in the same pay-per-view, man. UFC 223, Khabib versus Tony, and Khabib versus Holloway. I am still mad about this one, man. Dude, I was excited because honestly, I would say this one was peak Tony, and Khabib not at his peak, but pretty damn close. I think this time around, Tony would have had the best chance to beat Khabib, and he fucking tripped on a cable, bro. I'm still mad. He tripped on a cable and had to pull out. Bro, I'm like trying to gather my thoughts here because I'm still fucking mad about it. But this would be the pay-per-view where Khabib won the title for Maya Quinta. And this pay-per-view is the reason why we got Khabib and McGregor in the first place. After Tony pulls out, trips on the wire, Max Holloway steps in. And because this was New York, the doctors pulled Max Holloway during the weight cut and said, you don't look healthy. We're taking you out of the fight. Tony Ferguson pulls out, and then Max Holloway is forced to pull out. So we get Khabib and Naya Quinta. Bro, that pay-per-view was such a clusterfuck. It's still mind-boggling to me how the UFC was able to pull it off. With the McGregor and the bus incident, Tony pulling out, Max pulling out. That's up to the UFC, man. Next one, Zabit versus Yair. UFC 228. Yair pulled out. I don't remember if this is the one when Yair pulled out. He was released from the UFC. I'm not too sure on that. I think it was this one or the next one. Either way, Zabit and Yair at this time were the prospects of the featherweight division. I'm going to save my rest of the thoughts for later because this conversation is going to come back up. UFC 230. Dustin Poirier versus Nate Diaz. I do believe Diaz pulled out or planned to pull out because during the press conference, they announced Khabib versus Conor. He walked out of the conference. After that happened, I was like, yeah, this dude's not fighting. I was able to tell that he wasn't going to fight. And Dustin was giving interviews saying, like, he's acting like a total bitch. He's not going to fight. And next thing you know, Dustin Poirier pulls out. But he said he pulled out because, well, this fool keeps being a diva behind the scenes. So I'm just going to take care of this injury. I don't see why Dustin's going to lie. This dude has had some of the most dangerous opponents, and he's going to be afraid to fight Nate Diaz. Like, come on, man. We're not stupid here, man. Dustin was going to mop the floor with Diaz, man. Unanimous decision. Dustin's boxing was way more crisp than Nate Diaz was, and he had the cardio to back it up, man. So, yeah, it wasn't going to happen. Dustin Poirier was at his peak. And then UFC 249, again, bro. Again. Khabib versus Tony, man. Khabib versus Tony. This is going to be Khabib's second title defense after Dustin Poirier. Bro, during this time, I was like, this fight's actually gonna happen. What could happen that won't make this fight happen? Bro, COVID hit, and I was like, there is no fucking way, bro. Like, no way. The universe is like, you know what? This fight will never happen. And sure enough, lockdown happened. Khabib was stuck in Russia, and Tony ended up fighting Gaethje and lost. We will never see this fight ever. I mean, it doesn't even matter at this point because I did have Khabib beating Tony, and I think this time Khabib would have beat him easier than UFC 223. Now, let me tell you why. There is something that Kevin Lee said. I fought Tony at his prime, and I believe him because Tony wasn't fighting the same after that injury. So I don't think Tony would have performed as well against Khabib this time around than he would have in UFC 223. But we'll never know, and that boils my blood. Next up, Cejudo versus Aldo on the same card, UFC 249. I don't remember why Aldo pulled out. It would have been Cejudo's first title defense. I mean, I was alright with it. I really didn't mind the match, whether it happened or not. But I do feel Cejudo would have still won. But I think it would have been a little tougher than the Cruz fight, to be honest. Next up, Zabit versus Yair. Again. Now, I'm going to elaborate further. Now, after this fight, truly believe that this is the one where Yair got released by the UFC. And the cancellation of this fight is one of the main reasons why Zabit retired. It's not the main reason, but it's one of them. According to Ali, that it kind of broke Zabit's heart to be waiting and, the opponent doesn't want to fight. I still hold this against Yair because as much shit as he talks now, he ducked Zabit. There is no denying it. He ducked him. Zabit was going to sub him. Yair didn't have the wrestling. Zabit did. He was going to sub Yair. 100%. I'll stick to that till the day I die, man. Another fight. Edwards versus Chimaev. This got booked December 2020 and January 2021. Chimaev was going to win that, man. I mean, we saw what happened with Brady. Chimaev was going to beat him probably in the first 2 rounds. We got Edwards again. Edwards versus Masvidal, UFC 269. Yeah, Edwards by unanimous decision, bro. Like, at the time that it got announced, Masvidal run was already over. And I didn't see Masvidal really winning that at all. I could see Edwards just putting him at range, picking his shots. He wasn't going to knock him out, but it was going to be just a dominant decision. I didn't really care to watch it, but I knew the buildup was going to be fun. They robbed us of that buildup, man. Then Chimaev versus Nate Diaz, UFC 279. Now, this was another clusterfuck of a pay-per-view. I remember just that fight week was just so crazy and fun as a fan, knowing that, like, all the stuff that was happening backstage. I do feel like the UFC exaggerated it a little bit because after, we saw the videos, I'm like, I don't know, man. I was like, that ain't that bad. Maybe there's stuff that we don't know, That would have been Chimaev by fatality. Chimaev was gonna win that easy. No doubt in my mind. Next up, bro, Chimaev's on this list, man. Costa versus Chimaev. UFC 294. Chimaev by submission. I was looking forward to that build-up, man. I was like, oh my god. Costa makes a fun build-up when he doesn't like someone, man. I'm gonna be honest. Costa and Chimaev, like, bro, like when they got into it and at the UFC PI, bro, I was like, oh, they gotta fight. And they announced it, I was like, fuck yeah. And I think this was during the time when Costa's just fucking pulling out of fights left and right. But I think it was Chimaev that pulled out of this one. But either way, Chimaev was gonna win. Belal versus Shavkat. UFC 310. That would have been Belal's first defense. That one's tough, man. I want to say Belal by split decision, but the Shavkat's just tough, man. I mean, I know his performance against Ian Gary was a little rocky, but I still believe Shavkat had the ability to get Belal out of there. But I went with Belal anyway. Belal by split decision. Islam versus Armin 2, UFC 311. This would have been Islam's third title defense or fourth title defense. I don't remember. I think it's his fourth. Islam by split decision. But I do believe that this would have been his toughest fight to date. Armin had the wrestling, and I'm not going based off of the first fight, but Armin just has the wrestling, and he does have power in his punches compared to Charles Oliveira, and he has a stronger chin than Charles Oliveira. So it would have been a tougher fight for Islam, but I still believe Islam would have gotten the job done, but it wouldn't have been easy. I'll tell you that. And this is probably the most recent one, Gaethje versus Hooker, UFC 313. I believe Justin Gaethje would have gotten Hooker out of there, but dude, that would have been a fucking fun fight, man. I don't believe it would have been as big as a car crash as people think, just because Justin Gaethje doesn't fight like that before. He's a little more patient now, but I still believe it would have been a fun fight to watch, man. I'd still watch it. I mean, there's still a possibility to watch this, but I mean, the way Gaethje's acting recently, I doubt it. And last but not least, UFC 303, Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. I'm adding this just because we haven't seen it, but I do believe that we will see it when the UFC White House card gets announced. I just have the feeling that that one's gonna main event that card. There's no other fight. I don't want to see John Jones on there, man. Fuck John Jones. Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. And my prediction, I want to say Michael Chandler, but this dude, man, just can't fucking stick to a game plan. It's like he forgets he's a great wrestler. It's like, you know what? Fuck winning. Let me put on a show. And just fucking starts throwing in fucking wild haymakers and all this bullshit. He could have beat Dustin Poirier, bro. He could have. He chose not to. Whatever. I'm gonna go Conor McGregor, probably TKO. And that's the end of my video. If there's any fights that I forgot about that got canceled and you're still heartbroken, let me know. Put it down in the comments, like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.